So welcome back, everyone. My name is Catherine. I'm the founder of FitIn. I'm here today to shine a spotlight on Adam Wright of Primeval Martial Arts. Hi, Adam. Nice to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
So today we're talking about Muay Thai because that is what you specialize in. What kind of martial art is Muay Thai for those people who don't know, perhaps, and how does it compare to other martial arts?
Well, so Muay Thai, I'd say basically it's mostly known for being a sport. So, I mean, you'd see it a lot. It's in the ring all the time. I mean, it's punching, kicking, elbows, knees. Those are the main strikes. But I mean, yeah, it's a huge sport. It's the national sport of Thailand, actually. So, I mean, it has a long history, which I'd say kind of makes it different from a lot of other styles. But yeah, I mean, you'll see it in, I guess, almost everything now. I mean, if you watch MMA, most people are trying to do Muay Thai. I mean, it's just that effective. But I mean, yeah, it's a big sport. It's a self-defense martial art, like many other art. But yeah, it's mostly known for being a sport, I'd say.
Okay, that's interesting. That is a little bit different. So like, whereas other martial arts, there's different levels, you can test for them, you get like a belt or a sash or whatever. So is Muay Thai less structured like that and more just kind of usage based?
Yeah, Muay Thai, it's so that you won't see levels. You won't see a grading system really. Well, not traditionally anyways. I mean, there are some schools, from what I understand, in Thailand that have their own grading system. Even here in Toronto, I'll say Ontario, there is a grading system because the person who brought Muay Thai to Ontario, he created his own grading system.
Cool.
So everybody starts off basically just like you were starting at, say, Taekwondo or karate, you start off as a white belt, right? Here for Muay Thai, everybody starts off as a yellow shorts. We don't have any belts or sashes, we go by shorts here, right?
Okay,
so
cool.
Everybody starts off as yellow, that's the beginner. And then from there be blue, which is the next one, right? There was a time where he'd have another step, which would be the green, but that hasn't happened in years. That actually stopped, I believe, probably in my early years of training. So I didn't see most people getting it. I mean, I didn't get it myself. I wasn't at that stage when it was going on, even the last one. But yeah, you won't see any belt system. You won't really see a ranking system. I mean, from there, it's just you come in, you do your training. After a certain amount of time, I believe it used to be 6 months. After 6 months, you can test for the blue shorts. Blue shorts was a more intense class, basically. So it was a non-stop. It was go, go, go. You're doing everything.
I guess the benefit to having those kind of different levels in the grading, it allows instructors and students to kind of pair off with the right level so that they can get the most out of their training without being like totally overwhelmed with someone else's abilities, eh?
Yeah, and one of the other things is you actually get to really work on each of the basics. So instead of being tested every couple of weeks, you get one test, and then you have to really focus and practice and everything, really get those basics down.
So you mentioned, actually, you kind of referenced that there's a bit of a history to it. And I always find that really interesting. Like martial arts seem to have their mythology, right? Where they have a story, like their origin tale, as it were. So where does like Muay Thai originate? And you mentioned it, like how it came to Toronto. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? I'm always interested in the history.
So the mythology part, I don't know. I mean, I know I'm pretty sure there's something with this Naga demon or whatever it is. I didn't get into that. So I leave that alone. I don't want to try to mess with anybody's history.
Yep.
But so the part of the history is Muay Thai was developed. It came from a battlefield fighting system, right? It was always used for war, right? And then at some point, I'd say maybe 100 something years ago, it was turned into a sport, right? It was gradually turned into a sport, right? After Thailand and Burma and all of them stopped fighting, they needed a way to, I guess, at least preserve it somewhere, right? So, I mean, they slowly introduced different types of rules, different types of gear. They used to use rope, just wrap their hand in rope and fight that way. So, I mean, and ending was sometimes very brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have some people who keep that traditional way, that old way of fighting. But I mean, at the end, the result is not the same as what might have been way back. You know, now with that kind of fighting, that's either knockout or you can't, or somebody has to stop fighting.
Oof. Yeah,
But
you just tap out.
part of that, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was always, it was a self-defense. It was a military fighting system. In Thailand, the military still uses it, but they use what
Okay.
you won't see in the ring. And yeah, so as far as the person who brought it here, he was from Thailand. Actually, he was a Northern Thai champion, actually.
Cool.
So he was, I think he was a champion for 2 years, and I think he had a record. I think he had that record for a while.
Hmm.
So yeah, he came over, I believe, in the 80s and started. He's very slowly introduced Muay Thai. He only had a couple of students when he started teaching, and now I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many people who are affiliated with him now, at least here. So I mean, it's big, but it's not, you know, as I wouldn't say it's as big as jujitsu now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just like most regular martial arts, I'd say like taekwondo, well, karate, different forms of karate, different forms of kung fu. They
Hmm.
all have a history, right? Even Japanese jiu-jitsu all have a history. I mean, they were all used in warfare on battlefields for self-defense. So
Yeah.
Muay Thai has that same kind of history.
I mean, that's, yeah, exactly. Like martial arts is, it's the art of battle, right?
Yeah.
So this is no different, which is pretty cool. So how you know, you kind of talked a little bit about the gap between testing levels if you were to test, right? But
Yeah.
like, how hard is it to become competent in Muay Thai, and maybe what's the best approach to learning this really popular martial art?
Honestly, I mean, it can be very difficult because, I mean, one of the things is with Muay Thai, traditionally, we really focus on basics heavy, right?
Hmm.
I mean, if you can't really get the basics down, then everything else is just gonna become much more difficult,
Right.
right? And I mean, we spend a lot of time on basics. I mean, you can be doing the basics for 6 months to a year, right? Just doing simple, boring things.
Hmm.
But those are the things that are the most important, and not everybody has those skills.
Yeah.
Which
Well, I
is,
guess it's, yeah, it's not so much about basics, but about foundations, I suppose,
yeah,
right?
all the
If you don't have
foundation.
a good, strong foundation, how do you build on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's things where, so even when I was teaching at certain places, I mean, there are certain things that as a beginner you're supposed to learn, right? And then when I'm teaching a class, some people are looking confused, trying to get them to do this, and I didn't understand why they'd be confused about it. I mean, it's something that they should have learned already, at
Hmm.
least months before they even started taking my class or other fighter classes or anything, right? I mean,
So you have to
just
kind of
simple work.
scale back down and start at the bottom again and just make sure everyone's really stable before you start working them
Yeah.
back up.
And I won't lie, it does get frustrating. I mean, people are going for that blue shorts test, but not having certain things. So I mean, once you have the foundation down, everything else is easy. It doesn't take much time to even, I guess, assist with teaching. I mean, some people start helping, I'd say, after about a year. So what they might do is just start leading a workout, right?
Hmm.
All depends on, you know, what their skill is, what their skill level is. But yeah, as far as teaching, that could take years. I mean, I didn't start teaching until maybe 5 years in, and I
Yeah.
started off teaching kids. So
Yeah.
and that was all because I was used to working with kids. I used to, you know, teach sports. So
Right.
that was my background beforehand.
So for people, do a lot of people who take Muay Thai become like either instructors or perhaps, you know, like, I don't know, substitute instructors, or,
I would
and like, if you were interested in that, like, how do you, is it just one of those gradual things where you have to work with your teacher to become more, um, you know, an instructor, or like, can you just kind of train for that very specifically?
I I think I find that a lot of people don't really have that as a goal to teach. I think it's just something that, you know, you get brought into. So your teacher might ask you to do something, right? And then from there it's just, oh, okay, I'll help with this. Then more, it becomes more and more and more and more and more, and then gradually you just end up teaching. Right?
Oh,
I mean, I never got into it for teaching. I never even thought about teaching. I just wanted to learn. That's all I wanted. And
look at
then all of a sudden, teaching.
yeah.
But I enjoy it, right? So I mean, yeah, for some people have a goal of just being a fighter. They want to compete. That's all they want. Some people just want to learn and spar. Some people just are more interested in the fitness aspect of it. Right? They
I
see
guess
that.
because it's such a sport, there is a lot of competition.
Yeah.
I do get the sense that like Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu seem to be very kind of competition heavy, more so than maybe some of the other, martial arts.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at jiu-jitsu, I mean, it's always competition you hear about, right?
Mhm.
Same with Muay Thai. But I mean, you look at Taekwondo and karate, they have the competitions, but that's not the biggest part of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, Adam, thanks for stopping by and kind of giving me a Muay Thai 101. I've learned so much actually. And I'm not unfamiliar with martial arts, but this has been really great. So thanks for kind of bringing me up to date. Hopefully other people have found this interesting. It's martial arts are a great way to learn a new skill, and that part of keeping your brain active really helps, as well as keeping your body active. So
and you're always learning. It's a lifelong journey.
yeah, it's great. Well, thank you for everyone watching. I'll put the link to Adam's FitIn storefront below or afterwards, so you can go check it out. Feel free to book a personal one-on-one Muay Thai training session with him. And when things open back up again, maybe we'll have some classes going. So hopefully. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you.